So that's myself and Tiaan. We've been around for a wee while. I've been doing unified communications, meeting rooms, contact center, Teams calling, all the way from we were probably 10, 15 years before uh, LCS. So LCS was before OCS, which was before Link, which was before Skype for Business, which was before Teams. So a long, long time. And I'm more of a sort of voice contact center specialist. I also have a interest in the meeting room space, and so kind of go across all those areas. There's my LinkedIn profile there if you want to join. I also do lots of review videos on YouTube, so my YouTube channel's over there. I love, I'll just hide this button over there. I love sharing sort of product reviews, anything from headsets to handsets to meeting room gear, and anything in between that plugs that space of sort of modern work. And I don't want to call it mobile working or hybrid working. It's really modern work because it's whatever happens. And that's true also in the meeting room space. It's true in a hybrid meeting space. And so that's kind of the focus for us today. So if you have a look at Tiaan over there, Tiaan, go ahead, tell us about yourself.
Well, I haven't been around as long as Paul has. I've been more recent to Link. Started with Link 2013 and Skype for Business, and then Teams now. So I've been in the voice space for quite a while as well. Also run a user group in New Zealand, Christchurch, where we talk about everything Microsoft. So if you want to reach out on LinkedIn, my profile is up there. Reach out and make contact. Um, and yeah, so in today's presentation, we'll be talking a little bit about what we do for work and what we like to dabble in outside of work hours.
Yeah, thank you, Tiaan. So our session today is focused on the meeting room space, and I often get some strange questions around the meeting room space, but in essence, it actually translates to the meeting space, to be fair. So I often have people saying, well, how do I schedule a meeting from the meeting room? Well, you don't, right? That's not how it works. And so what we want to do is, while we're talking about meetings and meeting rooms, we want to kind of group it all together and go, here are the 5 key areas you need to master. So perhaps you already know them. Perhaps there are some areas you didn't know about. And what we're going to do today is we're going to show you not only how to do these different aspects, but also demonstrate them. So it's going to be very, very demonstration based to be able to get through this. And the first area we're going to look at is scheduling. So what's the best way to schedule your meetings to get the best use out of your meeting room space? To get the best use out of who's participating and that sort of thing. We're going to show you demonstration, each of these, right? Taking notes. What's the best way to take notes? There's all sorts of different methods. People like to use loop components these days, which I personally think is great. And especially with the new Teams client and in combination with the new Outlook client, that does make those things a lot easier to be transparent and shared across. We're also going to look at recordings. Again, the meeting rooms and when you look at the MTRs as well, the recordings are all baked in now, but the MTRs are essentially participants. And so when you're in a meeting room space, a meeting room hardware is always a participant. So all of these aspects are actually controlled before you actually get into the meeting room space. So keep that in mind. And then I'll focus on those 3 and Tiaan's going to be looking at, I'll refer to Tiaan as T, it's so much easier, right? We're going to be talking about in that space, how do you present material in that space? And we might chip in and talk a little bit about when you're actually in a room, how can you share, your content and that sort of thing. There are different ways to skin that. So some of that's very hard to demonstrate, but we'll talk you through that. The things we can demonstrate, we will. And then, of course, participating. So what's the best way to participate? There's some really interesting hardware coming out now. There are some AI cameras available, but even just from a desktop perspective, how can you give the best opportunity for others in the meeting room to appreciate your participation? And that makes up the 5 key areas that we're going to focus on. So let's get cracking. We'll talk about scheduling first. Now, whilst I have my scheduling window up there, there are numerous ways of obviously scheduling. And as I just mentioned before, we don't really schedule meetings from the MTR. So this is all done within your client. And as you can see here, I'm running the new Outlook client. What I will say is that I'm still getting used to the new Outlook client, and I have a love-hate relationship with it, the same way I do with the Teams 2.0 client, because again, There's a lot of nice, cool things baked in, but there's a lot of things that are missing that I'm just like, waiting for them to come across. So that'll be awesome. Now, we have different ways of scheduling. I've noticed a lot of people schedule differently in the new Outlook client. If you're going to be scheduling, you can just hit the button over there. Do you see my share? T, do you see my share? My window
I can
come
only see
across?
the scheduling. So you're still sharing the
Yeah, you see my
presentation?
Outlook window. Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh. It's not refreshing. Just tell me as soon as it refreshes over there. That is odd.
Okay.
I'll just Microsoft. Come on, don't do this to me. Give me a sec while I just reshare that. I'll just stop and reshare that.
So while Paul
It's not
does that,
refreshing.
if you have any questions or any thing you'd like to share during the presentation, feel free to put up your hand or put in a comment in the chat section. I'll keep an eye on that as Paul's busy doing things. So we'll try and answer any questions you have during the presentation. There we go. I can see your.
There we go. Right, yay. Yeah, a little bit of an update. So if you haven't picked this up yet, we're on the very, very far end of the earth. We get to see the new day before most people. We're based in New Zealand, which is right next to Australia. That's not Austria. That's a totally different place. So we're currently at 8 minutes past 7 p.m. And that is on, what day is it, T? Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. There we go.
Yes.
So whether you're and T, just give me a visual if you're not seeing it update, okay? That way I can keep track of what's going on. So in the new client, you basically go new event, right? That's how you. In the previous client, you'd go new Teams meeting, and I do like this, but like I said, it's a love-hate relationship. I love how you can see all the availability here in one place. So, I've got my calendar in there. This is my calendar that I'm setting up, and I can come in here and I can say, hey, let's add Tiaan to that. You'll see it as into the bottom, and we can see availability. If you added somebody external, different case, if I went, let me add my work email address. Let's see, there it is, which doesn't have a shared calendar. And you'll see they've got a little question mark over there, which means cannot see the availability. In that case, I would use scheduling poll if you've never used that. Awesome feature. I do scheduling poll, click on that,
It's
and
still
it comes
stuck.
up
Sorry,
and
Paul.
is it stuck? It's not showing the scheduling poll?
No, just bring your mouse over the Outlook client. I just want to see if did you share the Outlook client itself? Yes, I can see your mouse
Oh, no.
there.
Yeah, that's not nice. That's going to be really painful. Why is it doing this? Let me go like this. Oh, I see. I see. Wait. I think I know what's happening over here. There we go. This will do the trick. That'll be better.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So this is when I click new event, and here we go. And inside this, a lot of this will look familiar. And I was just going there, scheduling poll, which brings up the scheduler, which you can now send out a poll. You can choose how long, you can choose which day, you can, add and then send that off, and people get to vote on their meeting. That's pretty common. A lot of people use that. It only works in Outlook. So if you send that off to somebody who's on the Google Suite or something like that, you're out of luck. That's happened to me a few times. But it's there. It just makes it easier to find an event. Obviously, your title, all the rest of it, this is toggler. So in the original Outlook client, you could do a setting in the backend that says always make all my meetings Teams meetings. Now, a lot of people like that. Personally, drives me nuts. Why? Because I keep getting meetings for coffee and then it's a Teams meeting. And now I'm kind of confused. Am I joining you online for a coffee meeting, or are you actually going to buy me a cup of coffee? What's happening? And so it's a little bit of a pain. So I just see a question in the pop-up there, scheduling being problematic. I haven't actually, as long as both myself and those who are using it are on Microsoft tenancy, I haven't seen any issues. I have seen some odd things happen where people say they're not getting the schedule or they can't click on the links, but mostly that's been when they've been on-prem with Exchange. That's what I've seen. Yeah, so other than that, no real issues. Of course, you can add a room, all the rest of it. Now, I want you to be very, very clear. I want to show you very carefully the difference here. We can add a description and so on, but there's nothing more to it there. It's just a bit of formatting, put some links in, maybe an agenda or something like that. This is from the Outlook client, right? A few more options in there you can categorize and so on. And then, of course, you've got the scheduling assistant, which is the same as that sidebar that we looked at. I'll just go back to the event. It was the same as it's just like a bigger view, so you can, look at multiple days and hours and so on. And then you can also come in here and edit the response. I don't want you to forward meetings. There we go. Cool. Can't forward it. Great. Or I want a response. I want to know if you've accepted. I find it personally that's something I prefer when people actually go, yes, I accept, because then I know they're going to be there, especially when you're working in different time zones like I do. Okay, so that's scheduling a meeting from Outlook. That's common, not my favorite way to do things anymore. So I'm gonna discard that meeting, and I'm gonna bring over my Teams client if I can find it. Where is it? Where are you? There we go. Oh, other page. There we go. All right. So this is by far my favorite way of scheduling meetings, and the main reason is this. I'm talking about Teams meetings. The main reason is I got more functions, right? I got more capability. I don't like that if you click in a box, it just wants to schedule something straight away. I'm not a fan of that. I'd like to double click to show my intent. And the one thing, if anybody from Microsoft's listening, copy paste right in this piece here. Awesome. Again, it's something I miss in the new Outlook client as well. In the old Outlook client, you could select an event, a meeting, or whatever it is. You could copy it and paste it to another day, or just, that sort of thing. I love that, especially if you've got recurring or you want to change something. Can't do it in the new client. Not Teams, not Outlook. Such a shame. But no worries, I'm sure it's on its way. This is how we set up the meeting room space over here. Again, it looks a little bit different, right, from the Outlook version. But look what I like. Add a title, add attendees, that's great. Add repeat, but check this out. You can add a channel. So you can set up a meeting. This is my work channel, my work tenancy. So because I'm joined in 2 different teams to be able to demonstrate this for you. But this is where you can go and put a team inside. You can run the meeting inside a channel, which is great, because if you're recording and you've got other bits and pieces, notes and so on, it all keeps it in one place. Great. That's awesome. And because it's in Teams, it's online meeting by default. Of course, you can turn that off. But, and here's the notes and so on. But here's the secret sauce. This is the bit that I really love. See this here? Agenda. You don't have that natively in Outlook. I'll pause. Yet. It might come. I think it makes sense to be there. And this is components. This is, boom, look at that. And of course, if I start adding stuff in here for the agenda, and later on meeting notes, this will all go along with the meeting invite, and it'll resurface when the meeting runs. I love it. It's amazing. It's really good stuff. So let's go. What are you doing? Dominating. There we go. Why not? And then what I'll do is I'll keep that in there. I can see who's got access, and it'll be whoever I've invited, right? I haven't invited anyone yet. So let's just go back, and we go back here, and we'll add Tiaan in there. Oh, wrong Tiaan. Hang on. Hey, you know what, Tiaan? I've got the tenants wrong around, but that's okay. If I add him in there, as soon as I, in fact, add somebody else in there, let's add Tristan in there. If I add Tristan in there, you'll see that he will magically now have access in here in a moment. It'll come through in a moment. Now, this button over here allows me to hide these notes on the invite, right? And so they'll only surface during the meeting, which is really good. Yeah, probably have to send it first. So that is the the easier way to do it. Now, again, like I said, people have different ways of doing this. This is for me one of the more powerful ways, I guess, to be able to schedule meetings. So scheduling meetings is an awesome aspect of your meetings. Now, the other thing that we didn't actually touch on, just going back there real quick, is when you do schedule a meeting, even from Outlook, you've also got, I'll just go there real quickly. You also got the ability to change a few of the other options. No, we covered that. We did cover that. Yeah, no,
it was it's under the Teams one.
That's right. We're talking about changing the.
So just a note while Paul quickly does that, if you look in the right-hand corner there, you can see you can also take automatic recording of that meeting when you actually create that meeting. So if it's something you want to record and you don't want to forget about it, you can preset that up before the meeting even starts.
Yeah, thanks for that, T. And you're under more options. This is what I was looking for just before. These are the settings that you inherit from the policy in the Teams Admin Center, where you can come in here and adjust them for that one meeting that you're about to go and set. So I can come in here and quickly change things and turn mics off and cameras off and, record automatically, which would have picked it up from there. That's cool, especially if you think of this, if it's a recurring meeting, like for me, I got project meetings and they have to be recorded. So when I set them up in the beginning, I just say recording on, done. You don't have to keep going back and, oh, guys, I forgot to record. We missed the first few minutes, that sort of stuff. So that's really scheduling, right? I'll flick over to taking notes. Taking notes is awesome. And was that me? Did I do that? Taking notes, right. So taking notes is pretty good. I'm going to just come back here and just go to a meeting I had just before. Where is my meeting? There we go. Which one did we have a play with? This one here earlier. No, yeah, that one. That's the one. So here's a meeting we had before when we were testing and playing with things. And there's our little attendance and so on. Let's wait for it to load. So what actually happens is it's all collated together. So within here, of course, we've got our chats files, who came along and all that kind of stuff. So you can see that's all the details, which is nice. But here in files, if we did a record, the recording would be there in files. And let's see.
Was the other meeting we had?
Was it the other one in UC
the other tendency? Yes.
Right. Okay. That's why I can't see it. Give me a sec. I'll just pull that up real quick. There we go. And hold on. Where is it?
So just a comment from Michael there. Yes, I also like doing, and that's something Paul will probably show shortly, is that sometimes you can't add an agenda, and it's easier just to go to an email and reply back with create a meeting on that email with all the details. And it does then mean that you don't always get all the fancy bits of the meeting you can book in Teams itself. I also like doing it that way sometimes, especially if you have a lot on and you need to reply quickly to an email and just generate a meeting with that content.
Yes, that's so true. That's one of my. I actually forgot about that. So if we're having a conversation over here and we've been back and forth, you can actually come back here and let's see.
Other actions. Reply. Yep.
Message. I've got to open it up. There we go. And now I can go in here in more actions and I can say other reply actions, reply all by me. This is a really cool feature. I made a bit of noise about this a while ago on LinkedIn. And it basically means I'm replying to the email with a meeting invite. Because why would you now take all that and try to set up an agenda and all the rest? Love it. There's a shortcut key for it. Can't remember what it was. But it was a little bit more obvious in the old Outlook client because there was just a button. And the button would be, if you had the preview of the meeting, one of the buttons here would be a little calendar button. Great. I don't know what happened to that feature. It's such a shame. T, I don't know if you have the view of the loop component there. For some reason, I've got myself in a knot here and confused about the two clients, so I'm not sure what I did with it. But if you've got it there, that'd be awesome.
So I'll just share my screen.
There you go.
All right, under office.com, where you've got all your apps and things you can see there. Under my content, if you go all, I've got the deck that we were sharing between each other, the test meeting we had, it gives you the recording straight in there, and then the meeting notes. So when I click on the meeting notes, it takes me to the loop component within the Office realm, and I can now take on the agenda, add on to it, and work to it from there. Now, the nice thing about loop component, it's not a copy of the content that was in the meeting. It's a central database that gets accessed from everywhere at the same time. So Paul can come in here, he can edit it, I can edit it at the same time. And as you go, you can basically add people to follow-up tasks. In the tasks menu, I have got Outlook open here. I get an email saying, hey, Paul's assigned me tasks. Next meeting is my job to bring the biscuits. So you automatically get that interaction with it. When you click to the task, it'll bring up your to-do list, or bring you straight back to the Loop component. So you always brought back to the same place every time.
Yeah, thanks, T. Now stay there. Don't go off too far, because we may as well, since you're talking about recordings, we may as well just sit there, and it saves me from trying to figure out which screen I've got what. So recordings are awesome, because they really do allow you to go back and again, what Microsoft have done now is there's a bit of licensing, and you can do translation and all that kind of stuff, right? So with a premium license, you get some extra features. But as is, we're just using the standard Microsoft license for Teams here. Yes, we do have calling on there, which means you can actually transcribe a phone call. If somebody phoned you from a phone, regular old PSTN, you can actually record and transcribe that now. This is a new feature that a lot of people are not aware of. But there's your recording. You can download that. You can make that available to others, that sort of stuff. Thank you, T. So we've got the stream, we've got the get link. Of course, permissions will apply, right? So very often you'll send somebody a link and they'll go, I can't access it. Yeah, well, you probably don't have a permission to go and view that. Now you can change the backend as well. So instead of stream, like we've just left it in stream, it could be recorded straight to a SharePoint space. And then, of course, if it's a one-to-one thing, it just goes in your recording folder, right? If you're recording something on your end, it just ends up in your recording folder in OneDrive. So that's all very, very powerful. Yeah, go on.
This is the policies that are available to the admins. They can enable the recording. They can also enable or disable whether those recordings expire. And then you have your default expiration time. Now, I think you can do anything from 1 to a lot of 9 days. So depending on your retention policies, or whatever, you can choose how long you want those meetings to be stored. So those are just some of the settings that your admins have in the backend to make changes. So if you have any issues with recording or transcripting, might be good to just check with them what settings they have on in the background.
Yeah, I'm just catching up on some chat on the channel over there on the side. So just having a quick look, and I really do appreciate that. That you're interacting with us there. That makes us know that we're not alone. So there was a comment there about copy paste is a mess. Yeah, I know, a bit of a miss. I know it's one of those features that I really like to use, but sometimes I'm like, whoops, because if you copy and paste, sometimes instead of pasting the slot, it drags it through a whole day or something. I know it's a bit of I haven't figured out what the secret is. I just undo and do that again sometimes. Does it mean recordings are stored in the channel storage? Yes, that's exactly the intent of that. So when you do a channel meeting, the meeting content is owned by the channel storage, right? So that's pretty good. Do you see any public channels? That's a good question. The channels you see are based on the permissions you have, right? So in my case, if I've got some private channels that are locked down and I want to schedule, there's the problem. I can see them, but anyone who I invite to that who's not in that channel won't be able to join. It'll be a mess. So there are still some compliance and I guess security items that are still at this time not 100% transparent right across everything, but for the most part, anything that has file-related sort of access seems to be inherited. Right, let's see, is there anything else in there? Yeah, that was a good pointer, by the way, that we don't need to worry about who to invite when you're scheduling meetings and channels. That's true. You can, they won't get, if you don't put them on the invite, they won't actually get an invite, but what they will do is they'll see it in the channel and they can just join. So that's pretty cool. All right. Thank you for the warning there. Recordings to expire. Yeah. So what's the comment? Be careful with recordings. They by default expire and you're notified after the fact. Yeah, a little bit of a pain, eh? That's why you always have the option to make recommendations for new features or for adjustments or for just a toggle. Can I have a toggle for that little checkbox? So yeah, that's always handy. You just need to know where to put those requests. I'm going to hand you over to T now to do the presenting and participating piece. T, over to you.
Thank you. So with presenting, I have, and I'm sure many of you have as well, been in meetings where you get to the meeting room. There's no HDMI cable or cable to plug your laptop in to share to a meeting. So what are some ways where you can share, and what are some good etiquette when sharing with meetings? Now, I'm going to try do this because Paul is in the wrong tenant. He might not be able to jump into this one. So I'm just going to rejoin this meeting and hopefully make this work. So when you click join, if you have scheduled a meeting in a meeting room, there's no cable to share content, and you want to try and get your content in the room, best thing to do is to actually join that meeting. But when you do, have a look at the options you have. I see most of the times when people try and do this, they forget to turn off their audio. They don't have their headsets plugged in, so the microphone's active, the speaker's active, and everyone ends up with a headache because of the feedback going backwards and forwards. So if you are in a situation like that, just tick the option, don't use audio, join the meeting, and then you'll automatically be in the meeting. Then from there, you can then go and share your meeting or your desktop from that kind of space. Now, when sharing content or presenting it, like we saw before, you can easily get caught out with either only sharing a window or sharing a screen and people can't see it. So before joining meetings, always make sure you check what you have open in the background. If it's a custom meeting, that you don't have anything sensitive open in the background. Now from here, you can see that I've got 3 screens, actually 6, but 3 on this computer. And they give me a quick overview of what's available for me to share. Now from here as well, I've got my PowerPoint Live options that I can share. Now with PowerPoint Live, and I'm sure you've seen from the keynote we had today, that when using PowerPoint Live, you can have people go forward and backwards in your presentation, or you can disable it. So if you do have content that you don't want people to skip ahead to or look ahead to, make sure that you set up those settings beforehand if you are going to use PowerPoint Live. If you need to demonstrate other stuff in the background, like demos or something like we are now, using PowerPoint Live to jump between the two might be a bit difficult to do. So sharing a window in the background might be the best thing to do. Now, a lot of the times, if you have audio to share in the background, you have this toggle here to toggle it on and off before you share your screen. So I'm going to share my screen there. Now, you won't be able to see, let me just move this out of the way. Now, inside my sharing window, right at the top here, if I hover my mouse over there, there's a little drop-down window that pops down. Now, Microsoft is smart enough that even though I'm using 2 different clients, a web client and a normal client, it still doesn't show that. Now, if you started sharing content and you forgot to turn on your microphone, your camera, or even the sharing audio option, you can just hover your mouse onto the top of the screen you're sharing, and those options are available for you there. So you can quickly just click share computer audio without having to stop and reshare everything from there. You can also, if you have the option of if you have content cameras or anything like that on your meeting room device, you can go in there. There is a special option to enable that, so you can have your content camera or share any cameras from there. So that's pretty much from a sharing perspective, things to note with. Now, there is a good video on Paul's YouTube channel where he demonstrates how to add your phone to a meeting. So if you've got a tablet, now, if any of you know Paul, that whenever he does a meeting, he likes drawing pictures because it helps him understand what he's talking about and sometimes helps the customers as well. So he likes taking out his tablet, bringing up a whiteboard and sketching out the discussion that they're having. So there's a good YouTube video on there on how to share that content into a meeting room as well. Pretty similar to what I've done. But yeah, if you want to bring in other devices that might not have a plug and play capacity on a meeting room, you can always go down that path. So I'll stop that share. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is just participation. Now, this is something I find a lot of people get caught out on. You're in a meeting, you mute yourself because you have something going on in the background, and you start talking, you forget about that you're unmuted. I'm trying to get in the habit, especially if you're in a meeting where you're not the main participant of the meeting, but just adding a comment in here and there. A shortcut to get used to is control space. That is a temporary, as you hold it down, it temporarily unmutes you during the meeting, and as soon as you let go, it mutes you again. So I've seen a lot of people at the office sitting with Apple EarPods doing a meeting, and you can hear absolutely everyone around you. If you don't have the right headset, get into the habit of maybe using control and space to unmute you and mute yourself as you go forward. There's also the interactions. I've seen a lot of you use it. Get familiar with these. The interactions is quite nice and helpful when you just to show that you are participating in the meeting. Sometimes you can't have your camera on, and it's just a good way to show participation. Now, one thing I can't show now, but the view options. I had someone tell me once they absolutely hate Teams meetings because it's too busy for them. They've got cameras everywhere. They can see people. There's chat going on, and they're just trying to focus on the content that is being presented. And it seems like he wasn't the only one, because a few months later, Microsoft introduces focused on content. Now, if you haven't used that before, if you've got a presentation going, you click on that, it takes all the noise away, and you can just focus on the content that's being shared. It takes the videos away and chat, and it really helps you focus. Now, you can also use the split view functionality, especially if there's people in the meeting that you'd like to see, but also want to focus on the presentation itself. That's also good to split it across multiple screens if you can. Now, I was hoping to show you, Paul, you're not able to share anything on your end, are you? If not, no, that's all good. So one thing people don't always realize is if they're watching a share screen, like you are now potentially, you have the capability of holding control and using your mouse wheel to zoom into the content. And then you can use your mouse to drag around. So sometimes someone's sharing a spreadsheet or a Word document and it's not zoomed in fully. You don't need to stop them and ask them to basically zoom in. You can do that on your end as well. So that's just the generic stuff. You've got your notes here. So in this meeting, you can see again, we've got the loop component in here. So as the meeting goes on, everyone in this meeting can add to the notes. And that is live updated. Thank you there. Can you zoom into whiteboard?
Yeah, I'm just adding something over there for you to, yeah, look at that. So you should be able to zoom in and out of my attempt to play noughts and crosses over there.
Yep.
So
yeah, and using the whiteboard functionality is also available and good there. And that content will also then be shared after the meeting going forward. Yeah, that's the features we wanted to focus on mostly. You've got your recording, video effects, and your language and speech. Now, if you haven't played with this before, I assume I am bilingual, so I speak two languages. Having a play with the language speech is pretty good. The language model that it uses to translate into different languages is very accurate, and sometimes speaks a bit more proper than I think the common person does in our language. So that's really nice to see that it's actually easy to understand and going forward. So yeah.
Hey T, quick question on the chat over there. How do you share? Yep. So when you're in a meeting like this, maybe you want to focus on content and maybe chat at the same time. How would you do that? So perhaps drop.
So you mean if I'm sharing the content?
Yeah, you can focus on content and then click on chat, and then you'll have the content and chat up. So right now, let me see. There we go. So there we go. So you focus on content and chat. That's all we got up. So the content is gone because I stopped sharing, but that's how you get the two, and the video is gone, right? So that's one way to do it. You can also pop certain things out. There's another way to get even more real estate off your screen, isn't there, T? If we close the meeting chat and you wanted to just be full on content focused.
Yeah.
So how would you do that? Do you remember?
That was just the focus on content, depending on what's being shared.
Which is on now. And if you go to more options, what's more option? I forget now. There's an option to full screen, right? To have like a full screen view, and it takes all the ribbons and banners away, and all the extra buttons.
Yeah, I did see that Microsoft has also, I think with the new content share, if someone shares a window, or a screen. It actually does take away all the other real estate that's there if you want to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's GA yet.
And then we've got another session that we run about Teams tips. It's called Teams tips. Everyone should know, and there is like a massive amount of tips that that folks just don't know about. And my favorite, just as a sort of as a plug, my favorite tip is up arrow, and the reason is it's a shortcut to edit. So every time somebody sends me a chat message and they misspell something, what do? They follow up the chat with another chat with a correction of the word. And I'll just shake my head going, no, don't do that. Just hit the up arrow. So the up arrow puts you straight into edit and you can quickly edit it, hit enter, save, done. So while they're reading it, it actually gets corrected on the fly. So that's a great session that we need to probably spend some time on next time we get a chance, AT. But today's been all about meetings and meeting rooms. Any final comments from you, T?
I think just back to the question there, if you go into your main Teams app channel outside of the meeting, your chat for the meeting should be there as well. And there is an option to pop out that chat into a separate window. So if you go into the meeting, you go focus only on the content, and then back in your client on the other side, you can then pop up the chat. So you can only see those two on that side to do that.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of little features that slip in as time goes by, don't they, T? What did you show me today about the bold, whoever's talking?
Yes,
I
yeah.
was
The other
surprised. I
one
was like,
is
I've never seen that.
in a meeting when you raise your hand, obviously it'll put a number next to that. So whoever's first, it will show the order the hands were raised. If you then unmute yourself and talk, the system will automatically pick that up and go, hey, look, I've noticed that you have unmuted yourself and spoken. Do you want to keep your hand up, or it will automatically be lowered after X amount of seconds, stopping people from forgetting to lower their hands and then potentially getting called on again. So there's little features all the time that get brought in, sometimes like Paul was saying, without us even noticing, and you just pick them up as you go.
Yeah, what a joy, eh? What a joy. You got to love this technology. So with that, if we can go over to that last slide here, and we'd just like to thank you for your time today. I know it's all sorts of time zones, and it's always difficult for these things to kind of line up with everyone, but this will end up on YouTube at some point in time, and then you'll be able to go back and have a look or revisit something. And please do have a look in the beginning of the slide. Like I said, we run little sessions on YouTube every now and then. We do user groups as well from time to time. In New Zealand, we do them hybrid, so online and in person, just so that we can cover a greater demographic. And we cover anything from contact center all the way to these cute little headset pods that I'm using over here, which, by the way, my new favorite device. And so you're welcome to join us at any time. If anything, it's a blast just sharing information with like-minded people. Any questions? That's entirely up to you. Go ahead and ask away. If not, of course, on that last slide that T showed you is the session evaluation, and you're welcome to go and put something in there.